Okay, so how many days left do we have in the workshop? Today's the 23rd, and we're going until the 29th, so it's about 6 days. So when you go back home, who here wants to make an impact when you go back home, a change? It's a good amount, good. So these next 3 days, the main focus of our content is tools to help us make a change when we go back home. And this session is called Peace Designers Table, and it's a program to help guide youth leaders to recognize social issues in their community and have tools to be able to make a change in those issues. And so, as you're listening to this next speaker, it's a good thing to have give and take, or have an openness to what is it that I can do when I go back home to my community. And so I want to welcome up our next speaker. His name is Suho Kim. So if we could give him a big round of applause.
Hello. It's great to see all of you again. How was Seoul today? You know, it was supposed to rain, right? But it didn't, so God must love all of you guys, right? You know, there's a hurricane coming. That's why there's a hurricane coming in. It's gonna get really bad. We're gonna get a lot of rain probably tomorrow. So they were almost this close to canceling the event today, but then they didn't. So it's a good thing. And it actually kind of ties into what we're gonna talk about today, which is even better. So, as Sujin explained, Peace Designers Table is it's a program. It's a very hands-on program where we recognize, or we start seeing problems, or we start recognizing the problems, and we try to solve the issue by being an active member of, being the active part of the solution. It's not just about analyzing the problem, but we study the problems, and then we form groups to discuss and to solve the problems. So anyway, instead of trying to explain, I'll just get into the program. So everyone agrees that there are many problems in the world, right? And because of all the developments and all different issues, the focus of the issue is a little bit different by region or by nation, right? And then obviously the issues in the developed world versus developing world is a little bit, or very different. But there's an organization called UN. How many of you guys have heard about UN? Really? Some of you guys never heard about the UN? Like, have you guys been living in a cave? Come on, UN, United Nations. Yeah? All right, so everyone knows. So UN. So UN had developed something called the MDGs before. It's the Millennial Development Goals. But then anyway, that's irrelevant. But it ended in 2015. And Mr. Ban Ki-moon, the Secretary General for UN previously, during his term, the MDGs ended. So he worked his best to create the next generation, which is called SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, that will go on to 2030. And then MDGs really focused on the developing world, but what the Secretary General did was that he wanted to focus, or he wanted to create goals where any country, anyone could be involved in, because it's not just about issues of the developing countries, but also developed countries. They have similar issues. So instead of just categorizing issues in certain like poorer countries, they did it so that it's kind of universal. And jumped the gun. But anyway, so the UN developed SDGs thinking about three things. It's about the universality, as in it applies to essentially anyone. You would think that, you know, like America or Japan or, you know, the like Western Europe wouldn't have any issues with poverty or hunger. But then if you actually get into that country and then there are economic issues, it's because of the imbalance of, let's say, income or other issues. There are people suffering from poverty and hunger, even in developed countries. So in that sense, those problems isn't just an issue of, let's say, Asia or Africa or those developing nations, but it should be addressed even in developed countries. Second is about transformation. It's about actually making an impact where we, you know, it's not just about seeing an issue, but being able to kind of affect the economy, the communities, and yeah, to make a change. And then it's about inclusivity, as in it's about including other, it's about getting everyone to take a part in making the change. So that's how they developed the SDGs. So there are 17 goals, and then there are actually 169 sub-goals within that 17 categories. Who has heard about SDGs before? Very good, but I'm a bit disappointed that there's only a few of you. But through PDT, I hope you guys get really friendly and close with SDGs, because it's something that we'll be, you know, working on. So these are the 17. As I said, some of them you would think that it's only a problem in a developing countries, but no poverty. Poverty, hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality. They're all, it's an issue that should be addressed worldwide. It's not just a problem with only like a single region, but it is a problem that it needs to be addressed. And clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequality. So 6 to 9, it's about like development. It's more of the external aspect of development. But as I said, this also applies to developing different parts of the developed countries. Because there, as I said, there's an imbalance of opportunities and also infrastructure within developed countries. So in that sense, just because you're America doesn't mean this doesn't apply to you. Maybe I need to pick on the US a little more, but yeah. If you see, okay, who has been to US that's not from the US? Who has visited United States who's not from United States? Yeah? It's a very big country. It's about like 5,000 kilometers wide. I've driven it 3 times in my life, from East Coast to West Coast and West Coast to East Coast. And it takes minimum like 7 days to stop by and stuff. It's a big country, but as you know, East Coast, there's many cities. West Coast, there's many cities. In the Midwest, there's nothing. There's absolutely, okay, there's something, but like there's no countries. There's no towns. You have to drive literally like 2, 3, 4 hours to get to some other places. In that sense, there are still people living there. That means they have less, I guess, less opportunities. Their infrastructure, although the government tries to do it, they get an imbalance of, I guess, attention, let's say. But in that sense, it's still something that could be solved. it's still an issue. That problem doesn't go away just because you're in America, right? That's what I'm trying to get at. Next is the reduce inequality, sustainable cities and communities, and responsible consumption and production. And then climate action, life below water, life on land, is about environment. And the environment this actually impacts both developing countries and developed countries differently, but the end result is kind of the same because developed countries use more expensive fuel, whereas developing countries use like cheaper fuel, right? But in the end, it still messes up the environment. That means both developing countries has to do something to reduce their carbon emission, right? But developing countries, it's a little bit more difficult to do so because they're more focused on industries and development, right? So that means technically the developed countries should, spend money to reduce carbon emission, but then a lot of the time the rich countries say, why should we do it, right? That's why, Mr. Trump got a lot of crap when he backed out of that, the environment, the summit, yeah? So don't be that guy. Yeah? We're all one family under God, right? Yeah? We need to be the model. So anyway, and then peace, justice, and strong institution and partnership for the goals. In that sense, this is the 17, and then if you go to the website, there's the 17, 169 sub-goals within that 17 groups. And the Peace Designers Table is designed for you to recognize these issues, but in a sense, make it essentially personal, right? A lot of times when we say this, it's like if UN addresses these issues, we see a lot of issues going on in the world. They seem distant. It seems like they don't apply to us. Or if you had a personal issue, then you only feel a connection to that specific issue, right? So in that sense, for us to be a global leader or even like a global citizen, we have to be able to have some kind of a connection to these issues that's happening worldwide. We shouldn't take a step back and be like, oh, that's their problem. It should be more like, oh, how does that issue affect us within my community, within my family, within my community, and how can I make a change? That realization is the first step into becoming the change that you want to be, right? So that's why I'm trying to introduce you this general concept, the world, there's a big, very important organization called UN, which some of you heard for the first time, are trying to solve these issues by making like a development goals for the future, like a 15-year term. That's what I'm trying to introduce you. How does that apply to us? Who has heard about Sanak Peace Prize? Oh, come on, seriously? Not even half of you? This is like true mother. Come on, it's true mother. So Sanak Peace Prize, it's a, I shouldn't say competitor, but it's even higher than Nobel Peace Prize, right? It's not a competitor to Nobel Peace Prize, but it's the next step because, well, okay, I'll put it simply, it's because the Messiah gave it out. I like to believe it that way, right? But anyway, so the first time, 2015, True Mother gave Sanak Peace Prize. I don't think, I know during that time, they didn't decide whether or not it was going to be one person or two person, but then I know I was surprised when there was two laureates. I was like, whoa, really? Two people got it? Then I was like, oh, who's going to get it next year? They didn't do it. In 2017, it was 2 years. So I was like, okay, I guess it's going to be every other year, and then there's going to be two laureates. But yeah, I don't think that was the initial attention. But anyway, so 2015, do you know who knows Mr. Anote Tong? Really? Just like 4 or 5 of you? Who was he? Oh, I shouldn't say who was he. Who is he? Sorry, he's not dead. Who is he? What? Anyone, just yell. He's the former president of island nation of Kiribati in Pacific Islands. And what did he do then? Yeah, he raised awareness about the rising sea levels because Kiribati, I don't know the exact the numbers, but it's not a volcanic island. It wasn't formed based on like volcanic eruptions. It was formed by like shift of the like sand and stuff. So the highest point in the island, the nation, is like less than 20 meters. So island nation of Kiribati is impacted by rising sea levels like the most, because if the sea level rises a little more, there will be no more Kiribati nation. So anyway, he's been raising this for a long time. He's been working since like early 2000s, like very actively. And then, yeah, in 2015, he was nominated and received the Sonic Peace Prize. How about Dr. Gupta? Anyone? Anyone? Yeah, what did he do? Anyone? Okay, fine. What country is he from? Man, come on. Okay, so he's from India, and he actually developed a like a fish farming technique, and he did it, and then he also made it very. He shared the way to do it without like selling the idea. So he kind of solved the what is it, the hunger issue, and he's been working very hard to provide this kind of like fish farming technique to like small villages so that they don't suffer from hunger. So in that sense, he made a really big impact in India, where there's a lot of people. The overpopulation is an issue, and that also in terms leads to food and food shortages and things like that. So that's why he received it in 2015. Last year, there was another Peace Prize. So, who is Dr. Strada? The what? Heart doctor. He's a heart surgeon. Which country? Yeah, he's Italian. Do you know the NGO that he made? Okay, I'm very surprised. Songhwa students didn't know. Maybe it's the age difference. But yes, he created an NGO called Emergency, and it provides the medical assistance or medical services in difficult places like war zones and things like that. He himself is a heart surgeon, and then he went around and providing this kind of things. But then, he himself did that, but then you guys know the really famous one, Doctors Without Borders, yeah? A lot of people know. But then, in that sense it's similar, but then he himself made a huge impact as an individual. That's why he was nominated and received laureate. Okay, how about Dr. Yakubi? Sakina Yakubi, where's she from? Very good. And then, what is the name of the institution that she runs? I'll buy you something nice if someone knows this. The institution. Huh? Very good. well, come find me after the lecture. We'll go get scone or something. But yeah, so she created a school where Afghanistan has been very unstable for the past long time. And so she created a school to provide education for those who cannot receive education in a normal setting. And the surprising thing about Dr. Yakubi is that we actually, I'm pretty sure we did a program with her. She was part of the YSP launching of Afghanistan based on, or we worked with her institution, the Afghanistan Institute of Learning, and then the YSP did a program together, and that's how they launched YSP in Afghanistan. So, what is the theme of 2015 Sonic Peace Prize? Environment. What's the theme of 2017? What? People. Huh? Education and people. Yes. So, it's, so based on True Mother's kind of perspective, the UN actually has kind of followed her focus. What I mean is that in 2015, she did the Sonic Peace Prize and nominated these two. In 2016, the UN had a big summit of the environmental issues. And then in 2017, True Mother nominated these two. We will use the term human rights. And then I think sometime end of last year and sometime this year, the UN started focusing on human rights issue around the world. In that sense, yeah, True Mother is awesome. You can't compare. But in that sense, the way the Peace Designer program is going to approach is that we're going to divide, or we're going to focus on 4 topics. When we get into the sections and do the thing, we're going to focus on 4 topics. So the first is environment. True Mother actually, a couple of years ago, she started mentioning that we need to start taking care of the environment. That was right around the time, the 2015 Sonic Peace Prize. But then she said we need to take initiative. We need to take care of the environment. It's it's our responsibility. So that's the first one. Second is human rights. This is kind of obvious, but it's obvious, but it's difficult to kind of pinpoint. How can we affect, human rights? What I mean is, when I say human rights, it also includes poverty, hunger, and education, all that. But yeah, how do we affect? Because for most of us, going to school is a norm. Everyone understand that term? It's normal for us to go to school every day, and that's why we hate school, right? But for some people, they want to go to school, but they can't. In that sense, that's the difference in perspective and the situation. But how do we, in a sense, how do we make that into a personable problem? How do we connect people not going to school like my issue? It's something that you should take some time and think about. Because if we truly embrace the idea of, one family under God, how can you be okay with some people not being able to go to school? Or even so, not being able to read a book because they don't have any. In that sense, it's a very big issue. I don't want to make it so that I don't want you to say, pack up your bags and go there to do something. What I mean is, you have to think in your local level, how can I make the change? How can I start making changes about these issues into, so that we could start impacting, or we start tackling this global issue. So I said 4, so 1 and 2 is on a global topic. 3 and 4, it could be boring per se. But the third is true family values. This is, true family values is something that, our church, our church movement has been dealing with for forever, from the beginning. But in essence, all these issues, the 17 SDGs and whatever, all these issues could be solved through ideal, like if every family becomes an ideal family where they respect each other and they embrace the 4 realms of heart, right? But in that sense, how do we make this issue, or how do we tackle this issue in our communities? It has been always an issue, right? How do we practice true family values? Has always been an issue, but a lot of times, personally, the church always approach it in a very theological or very principled way. But I think for us, for youth, I think we should try to approach it in a more practical way. In a sense, for example, how do we practice, one family under God at our school? It's easy for us to say one family under God with other blessed children, right? But then in the end, we have to be able to love and embrace everyone, all brothers and sisters around the world, right? That in that sense, us as blessed children, needs to take a step forward and also witness people. I don't need to segregate like the first terms, but what I'm saying is we who embrace true parents need to take a step forward in terms of practicing, in terms of showing the love of true parents to the society. And in that sense, our responsibility falls a lot in true family values, of representing true family values. It's very important for us. And then the fourth one, it's the unification of North and South Korea. The reunification of North and South Korea is also very related to like the providential reasons. It's related to true parents' words, and it's that the mother country needs to be reunited for kingdom of heaven on earth to be formed. In order for Cheonhaegung to be fulfilled, North and South Korea needs to be reunified. The true parents said it countless times. And then the event that you attended today, Peace Road, is related to creating one world, one community, and it impacts it has a very important role in the reunification of North and South Korea. In that sense, reunification of North and South Korea can be very daunting for us to approach, especially if you're not from Korea or if you're not Korean. But for some of you, what if your future spouse is Korean? It becomes an issue, right? Okay, never mind. That's a bad joke. I'm just making sure that you guys are waking up. But yes, the fourth topic is reunification of North and South Korea. So this one, you guys really have to think about how to approach. And yeah, hopefully some of you guys take some time to approach this issue. In that sense, I just explained to you about the global issues that global organizations kind of think about, and what our church, as the presenter of PDT, what we want you to think about. But in that sense, you yourselves individually, in order to approach and in order to really think about the issue, you have to start asking these kind of questions, right? Whom do these issues affect? And on what scale do these issues affect the people? As I said, it's very easy to start planning a program or planning a project if the issue dealt with you personally, if you were personally involved in the issue. But what if it doesn't? As I said, a lot of the foreigners who are here, a lot of international students, how does reunification of North and South Korea, that issue, the division, how does that affect you? In a sense, it almost doesn't. But it's up to us to be able to kind of embrace that idea. Or it's up to us to be able to connect with that issue. Yeah? To make it my problem. We have two parents, so it's kind of easy to connect to, the Korean issue, right? The reunification of North and South Korea. But how are we going to be able to bring other people to deal with this issue, let's say from Africa or Europe? Why should youth from Africa and Europe and America care about the reunification of North and South Korea? The answer lies in you. Why do you care? Once that has been once you develop that kind of attitude, once your mission is clear why you want to tackle this issue, then you can start bringing other people. So in that sense, you guys kind of have to think among yourself. But these kind of problems, you have to think from me, how does these global issues affect my family, my school, and my community? You have to be able to kind of have this analytical, you have to go through this analytical process to be able to start thinking about the problem that you want to tackle. As I said, this is the different way of breaking down the problems that happen in our communities, but as I said, we decided on the 4 topics, and they're kind of related, but yeah, just for reference. And then once you start thinking about the problems within your issues, it's not just, you don't end it, oh, I want to do something about the environment. And I want to do something about environment or the environmental issues that's happening in my community. Then you have to think about how you're going to approach it. Does it deal with sanitation issue? Does it deal with recycling? You have to start breaking down this issue where it becomes the term that I like to use is bite-sized problem where we can do something about. Some problems maybe it can be too. You might think that it could be too simplified, but then in that sense you could solve it, then develop the program into a bigger project, right? So in that sense, seeing the big picture and narrowing it down to something that you could approach, then moving back up to how we develop this program bigger to affect the larger community is very important. So anyway, it's not that important. Also, and in that sense, there has been already people who didn't go through Peace Designers Table program, but who themselves realized that they needed to do something about the issues surrounding their community. So this is a case from Kenya, and apparently there were a lot of traffic accidents around her school, and she realized that there weren't any traffic signs. So she took the initiative to do something about it. So I think one of the examples in your workbook has her story in it. What were the issues? So in that sense, there are people around the world, especially youth around the world, who did take the initiative and did it. this one. She's also the one who wanted to make the solar or electricity more accessible, and she created a way to create more efficient like solar panel by like moving solar panel that follows the sun. Anyway, these kind of simple things is something that we can do as well, and that what we want you to do together. So yeah. That's the explanation of the general aspect of things. Now we're going to actually go into the actual part of the Peace Designers Table, the program, where we're going to be forming teams, and then we're going to be forming teams based on your language. And how we're going to do it now is that there are probably some of you who already have an idea of what kind of program that you want to do, what kind of project, or someone who were already involved in your project but want to kind of make it better, and by getting feedback or by working with other people here. So I have this sign-up sheet. What we're going to do is, those people who already have an idea of what you're going to do, is going to take this, and then you're going to basically form your own team based on this. So here, it says topic is, you have to pick the topic from the 4 topics that I introduced you. It's environment, human rights, true family values, and reunification of North and South Korea. Then, the project that you are thinking of, like what kind of project are you going to do? Are you going to do like recycling project? Are you going to do like book donation, or any kind of project that you have in mind? If you don't have it, it's okay. But then the first thing, the topic is very important. Then the person with this paper writes their name as the team leaders, and you go around and fill out your members. And as I said, it's best if you form the groups within the same language, so that you could have this discussion and do this Peace Designer Table without kind of translation. Everyone understands? Yeah? Everyone understand? So those who want to lead a team, please come up to the stage there and get this form, and then yeah, we'll take about 30 minutes where you guys go around and kind of form teams. And then each team will sit, so yeah, you don't have to sit within your families after this this time during the Peace Designers Table. So for next 3 days, you'll sit by your teams based on this, not by your families. Everyone understand? Yeah? So those who are inclined to be who wants to be a team leader, please come up and receive this sheet. And yeah, we'll start forming groups for the next 30 minutes. Yeah? Everyone understand? Was my explanation not clear? Yeah, having a project, so just a representative should come get it. So yeah, everyone, or those who want, please come to me and to receive this. And then, for those who are not sure about the projects, just form a group within groups of the same language. And then you guys could start, you'll just form a team like that without specific projects. We need more team leaders. We have
Um dos dois da Machu, os dois
of
mesmo.
So all the team leaders who received it, go find your team members. Go find your team members and write them down. And everyone actually has to stand up because we'll be redoing our seats. You have to sit by your teams. So everyone pack up your area and then start gathering by your teams.
Tayo YSP Pilipinas kunwari.
I saw you. Witness to me. Come on, pitch me right. I'm just so tired.そうどうやって探したらみんなまず解散しちゃうの。Never mind.
Yeah, everyone clean up your tables and start forming into groups and start sitting down and start discussing. The team leaders who already have a project, start explaining to your team members about what kind of project, what topic you're tackling, and then what project you're thinking of, you're imagining. For those who are not sure about what, then you should start discussing what topic and what project you want to start tackling. The team should be less than 10 people. More than 7, less than 10. Or 6, more than 6, less than 10. Yeah, if you have your group, start claiming a table. Start sitting down.